Welcome to Buying Sandlot. I am Kyle Pagan along with Kyle Scott. On today's episode, we're going inside Curve Sports' impressive new launch. Two big dogs partner up in a lucrative sponsorship, and Tiger Woods gets into the flag football space. But before we get into the show, tickets for our Buying Sandlot Summit in Philadelphia on April 14th and 15th are still available, and they're moving, baby. Get those over at buyingsandlot.com or the link in this show's description because we've got an amazing set of speakers you won't want to miss. We've got an amazing set of panels that you won't want to miss. And you can continue to check out the newsletter as we'll be announcing more every week as we get closer to the event at Ballers. We got any updates there, Kyle?
Big Friday today on the event front. Big
let's
Friday.
go.
Just to say the incoming on the event it's a big Friday.
Hell yeah.
No, it's good. It's going well. I'll just read what was in the newsletter today just to give a quick plug. So I've gotten, maybe I should be better about talking about how many people are coming and who's coming. I'm largely building the website myself, so that will improve in the coming weeks. But I put it in the newsletter today. Join the likes of, and I'm just going to name some of the companies that are, most of these are speaking, some are just attending. HUDL, Game Changer, Team Snap, League Apps, Positive Coaching Alliance, Rush Soccer, Fast Break, Play On, Perfect Game, Base Sports Group, Event Connect, Team Travel Source, Playbook 365, Anchored Prep Network, Playmetrics, Sports Facilities Companies, Little League International, I9 Sports, IMG Academy, The Wharton School, Prep Network, Rawlings, Focus on the Field, and then friends of the show, Focus on the Field, MPI Sports, Go For, Onsides, and some of the largest private equity investors in the space, including the group that just acquired LiveBarn for $400 million, and many others, with more to come. So this is well attended. Panels will come out very soon. Yeah, get your tickets. It's going to be a good one. Promise it'll be good.
This will be the closest I'll ever get to the Wharton School.
That's it. Well, you could drive by it.
True. I guess I could drive by it. I could drive by it. I don't really go out that way, but this would probably be all right. Fine. This would be the closest I'll ever get to the Wharton School. Somebody who goes there, I guess. I don't know. What am I saying?
Yeah, I just drive by and marvel at that nice round building. I like the architecture.
It is a solid campus. I always wish Temple's campus, you just dropped it in University City. But before we get into the show, we want to thank Event Connect for partnering with us and helping power the show. Event Connect, they are the operating system of youth sports. Go to eventconnectsports.com. We thank them for sponsoring the show. Let's get into it. Dude, what a newsletter today. What a out of nowhere big dog I don't even think we knew about. We scratched the surface of Curve Sports and thank James Cratch for getting an exclusive interview with Sandy Ogg, the CEO over there, because he just came away with so many awesome highlights that I want to read a couple for you. Sandy's vision is to have about 30 super clubs nationwide and shift focus back on local competition and development. He expects Curve will acquire about 100 total clubs to reach this goal. Diamond Allegiance has about 70 clubs in its network, but it does not own them. Ogg also said Curve has made one acquisition so far and is working through several more. He wants club owners to retain a significant stake and continue day-to-day operations. He also hopes to establish academies that pair academics with the clubs. And another big one, he expects Curve will mostly acquire/partner with existing underutilized facilities within its super club footprints. Curve Test Centers tech will be integrated into these facilities, bringing the testing capabilities and data discovery process to the local level. All the buzzwords you hope to hear when a big dog gets into the space.
Cue the big dog music.
Yeah.
Right. So first of all, I would like to, maybe other people in the youth sports space can understand what the word exclusive means. I'm just going to note that. Some people earlier in the week were misunderstanding what exclusive meant. If you have an interview and that person also speaks to other outlets, it is not exclusive. So just keep that in mind, everybody.
Media 101 right there. Thank you.
Media 101. I'm not going to name names, but Media 101. But listen, I actually want to I think I undersold a few things, one of which I think we briefly touched on Curve as we were trying to learn more. And I don't say undersold it, but I may have downplayed it. And I've revised and elevated my opinion after, no joke, reading Buying Sandlot, right? Like reading the work James put in on this interview and really understanding what they're doing. Cue the big dog music here. And And then I have another one on the HUDL and Lee partnership, which again I think I maybe downplayed, but it's directionally accurate of some of the trends we've talked about a lot here in the newsletter and on social this week, and coming off the backs of my interview with Samir from Game Changer. So like I have revised my own opinions based on just consuming our own content this week. No joke. So yeah, let's get into to Curve. I mean, there's a lot here. So it, the analogies, which I can't remember if we edited out or we gave them, but I think the analogies are spot on. They're trying to do. They want to, be 30 super clubs. Right now, they're the Unified Diamond Allegiance, which has how many clubs under their remit? Something like
70.
70 clubs. Most of it doesn't own any of them. It's a club network. This is very similar to Rush. I think Rush does own a small Rush Soccer does own a small handful of the clubs in its network, but everybody else is a network partner. So think of Diamond Allegiance and what Curve is trying to do as Rush for baseball. All right. So you have that aspect of it. On the other hand, we've had Frank DiSimbrino from Clubhouse Partners. I think what Curve is doing is probably even like a level up in terms of scale of what they're trying to do, but it's owning local clubs, it's having the facility piece, and then it's having an in-house tech and data testing center as part of that that really thinks a lot about NIL, athlete data, and recruiting. Same thing Clubhouse is doing with On the Radar. You have this focus. I'll read this quote from Sandy. I have felt and continue to have even more conviction that the heart of this is the club, because that's where the parents are, that's where the players are, that's where the coaches are, that's where the action happens, but they are undercapitalized and underfunded. This taps into a trend that I've written about a bunch, which is I think you're going to see the industry pie shift. I don't want to say away from travel, but a bigger piece of that pie becomes the local facilities and clubs, because parents spend 5 out of 7 days there and 2 days a week at the tournament venues. So it's only natural there's more investment on the club side. And then you have the tech and data piece. That we've talked about this with MPI, being able to have a residency within a facility, which is what Curve wants to do at their club facilities. We've talked about that with MPI. And then you have this giant tailwind. They want to have, this is amazing. OG also hopes to establish academies that pair academies with clubs. He and Weatherford Capital obviously have ties to IMG, and Og is the board chairman of a UK-based private school operator with 100,000 students in 37 countries. This plays into the tailwind that we've talked about. I think you're going to see athletics and education go hand in hand, even below the high school level eventually. This hits like every trend we've talked about in the last 2 weeks. And we can go in depth on any of those. I'm just
What do you want to
more
any in
impressed.
particular? Any in particular you want to go in depth on that really sticks out to you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, I think this focus on local and building these super clubs that have a physical footprint with increased spend, and I don't say hospitality is the wrong word, but just better venues, right? Elevating the local experience where people are spending time and having that play into the club model. This is a trend. We talked to Frank about this. It's less about, if you have a facility these days, you're probably not wise in most cases to try to sell by the hour. It's what clubs can you get in there that are paying monthly or annual dues and they have access. It's the country club model. It's the private school model, right? They're not charging by the hour. They're charging by you belong to the club. You can come whenever you want. That's what's happening in local sports facilities. And now you're seeing them kind of be vertically integrated with the clubs they're partnered with. I think that is such a huge unlock. Now, it's a different game, though, than the travel industry, and the travel facilities, which are largely supported often by public investment because they can justify that from the sports tourism impact coming into the community. So the economics are different. You actually have to turn a profit based on the merit of the club and the facility itself on the local level, because you're not bringing people in for tournaments. These are more like training clubs, home bases. Think gyms, think turf fields, things like that. In some cases, you can have tournaments to bring people in, but I don't think that's the driving force. But I think that's a big leg up in the industry. There's a lot of headroom there.
Yeah.
Lots.
Is this something we've ever seen before in this space? Like, if this all goes to plan, it feels like Og is taking your IMG academies, he's taking your Rush Soccers, He's taking your perfect games. He's taking your MPI or on the radar or clubhouse partners, and he's just mixing it all into one. And he says he wants to do 30 super clubs, not 30 super clubs up the Eastern Seaboard. He wants to do 30 super clubs nationwide. It's crazy.
Yeah. I listen, someone's listening has an example that's just not going to jump to mind here, right? No one, as far as I know, no one has truly cracked this. It seems like most of the scale players, and again, we've been here for a year, so I always try to say this, like, we're learning the space along with everybody. And we do have the advantage now of seeing a lot, and people are coming to us and talking to us. Um, from my read is that the real scale plays have been around events and tournaments and showcases, less so on this local club consolidation. But
Yeah.
there's a clear wave there. True Lacrosse, Empire Baseball, Clubhouse Partners, Curve. It's happening now. I think of Pioneer Sports and Rush. So Pioneer combines Surf Nation and Rush. That feels the most similar. They have a tech play as part of that. They have this giant club network. They can sell sponsorships to Carvana at scale. So I think that in soccer, that's definitely the best comp. Um, flag is still being built. Tackle football is kind of, a scholastic heavy thing in many ways. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a great comp. Obviously, they're talking a big game. This thing just rolled out of the gate, but it's well capitalized. Former Blackstone partner. Am I reading that right? Like, there's, you know, big dog stuff, big dog stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the local competition and development really sticks out to me. And that's where I might be wrong on the comp of perfect game because obviously that's more travel, more regional tournaments, all that stuff. The local competition feels more like rush soccer, just going around the country and trying to own a bunch of clubs and maybe build some footholds in there. And we talked about this before where it was like uh, you want to fly one flag over your organization. Now, obviously, they're focusing mostly on baseball. I don't think James was able to ask or even asked if they were thinking about getting into other sports. It does feel like Sandy and Diamond Allegiance they Curve Test Centers were mostly around the baseball space.
They call it a baseball first ecosystem in the play. So
Baseball
that's to say
first
baseball
ecosystem.
first. Doesn't say baseball only, but
That's
you
true.
get
True. Their ties to IMG Academy, obviously Sandy's ties with that school in the that
network of
board
schools.
chairman, yeah, network of schools in 37 different countries. If this all comes to fruition, I mean, we're talking about one of the biggest companies in the youth sports space in a decade,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
even.
And I totally agree. And again, early days, but
Mhm.
it's a theoret. I don't say it's theoretical, but it's a blueprint and a concept for
Yes.
what this like truly, we talked about this a little the other day, what a vertically integrated sports thing looks like. Let's say you own 30 super baseball clubs. Let's say you own 2 dozen baseball facilities that those clubs play out of, these regional or localized hubs. Let's say you have partnerships or some other hand in schools and academies that marry academics and athletics. Let's say you have this tech um, and data assessment piece that is, we can talk about this in a second, that is geared towards NIL and college recruiting, right? Now you are serving the player from first grade to college, right? There's a real estate play here. There's a tech play. There's a club play. There's an education play. This is what things look like at scale. And again, this becomes a scaled company just in a single sport, right? And then all these things get rounded up by some public company 7 years from now, and they have that for soccer. They have they buy Pioneer for soccer. They buy something like this. They now all of a sudden there's some publicly traded TBD co that owns for-profit companies in education and sports and facilities, and it's a you know hundreds of billions of dollars type company. This is why the money's flowing in. You get this right, and the scale is limitless.
Yeah. And IMG is obviously a great model, and we already talked about it, how they have ties to IMG and everything. But even IMG, they've been around for over a decade, and they're still adding new sports. Wrestling they just added. I want to say girls volleyball they're adding, swimming they're adding, and stuff. Like obviously they're known mostly for basketball, football, baseball, tennis, I believe as well. But this has so much opportunity, not just for baseball is 1.0. 2.0 might be, the hotbed of basketball, the hotbed of flag football, the hotbed of soccer, volleyball, all this stuff. So there's so much opportunity, and I'm really excited to see how this goes. What do you think about the tech play? I know you might have some thought on that, or do you
Yeah, I
know
mean,
much?
part of this is less about the specific company. I mean, while I do think it's impressive, it's an example of all of the trends we've talked about. So, all right, we just talked about the local club and facility experience, right? Let's talk about tech thing. We've talked about, and they say this. I actually wrote it down here. Verified. So their tech platform, which I want to get it right here, Curve Test Centers, right? They the copy on the website is verified performance data for college coaches. And it talks about how college coaches don't spend as much time recruiting because of NIL, because they can go to the portal. So they need quick, call it shorthand, verifiable data. We've talked about this. It's why we like MPI sports, disclosure, we're an advisor. It's why we like what On the Radar is doing at Clubhouse. Um, Being able, and we talked about why you have to get some scale so everyone trusts the data, but Curve Test Centers, hitting assessments, pitching assessments, movement and power assessment, cognitive assessment, the full curve test. I don't, some self-branded thing, right? But this is, and the way they're going to scale this is by putting these testing centers in the facilities they, presumably aim to acquire. They have a partnership with Lake Point, right? So now, like, the way for this to work, we talked about this, is finding, I don't want to say empty space, but space that is underutilized in all these facilities and setting up a residency. By the way, this is an asset light model. You don't necessarily have to go buy a whole facility to approach someone and say, hey, give us 5% of your square footage, and we could set one of these up and we can proctor these tests for your athletes. That's, again, it's just another example of someone building in a trend that we've talked about. And then again, I always talk like 50,000 foot view of this society, more leisure time, more of education becomes activity and interaction and athletic pursuits. And you're talking about, somebody who has a hand at IMG, somebody who has a hand in all these private schools in the UK marrying. And again, I'll read it just from our article. Hopes to establish academies that pair academies with clubs. So he wants to, basically pair schools and academies with clubs. I'm hearing marry education and athletics. It's just all of these trends we talked about in one. I can't keep saying that. It's redundant, but just
Lot of letters.
somebody well capitalized doing all this. I
That's
like
an
it. It's
interesting
fun.
spot too, where it's like you're not building this, and you're not like building it up, and then here comes capital, here comes private equity to take you to the next level. They are being infused because they've proven themselves already with obviously Sandy's impressive resume, Diamond Allegiance, and Curve, combining together. So that's even another kind of layer to this whole thing, the capital.
Yep. Yep.
So
And again, I mean, just another, again, True Lacrosse, NY Empire Baseball, Clubhouse Partners, I know some of these are baseball centric, Pioneer in soccer. You're seeing, again, this trend outside of travel and tournaments into club ownership with a facility component. That is definitely like the next rung here.
yeah, whew. Can't wait. Can't wait to watch how this all unfolds. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting times in the youth sports industry, people. Get in line.
Well capitalized. He said here he got the idea when some kids from the Bronx joined his son's travel baseball team in Rye, New York for a weekend. So I just looked up the demographics of Rye, New York. Median household income is $240,000. So well capitalized out of the gate.
Started on a feel good story, a feel good mission, a holistic approach. I love it. I love it. These guys are starting out hot out of the gate. How can you not love it? How can you not be rooting for Santiago and Curve Sports, baby?
We got to get them to the summit. They need to be on the panel. Yeah.
100%. 100%. All right, cool. Let's move on. A couple big dogs partnering together. HUDL is partnering with Nike, and you'll see the swoosh on highlights, Winter Sports highlights. This was announced on LinkedIn by Rick Rattay, the brand partnerships and media sales employee over there at HUDL. They announced this morning a partnership between Nike and HUDL to reach high school athletes with HUDL's video inventory across high school basketball and other winter sports. We talked about HUDL partnering with Lee Enterprises on Wednesday. What do you think about this one? A little bit different, I would say, this partnership.
Yeah, a little bit different, but I think, again, I don't think any one of these are huge news in and of themselves. Nike has certainly sponsored things in youth sports before, but it's another example of HUDL really operating like a media company now, right? You're getting sponsorship dollars from Nike. And then the other story we had in the newsletter was a local IKEA here in PA partnering with the Proving Grounds, large tournament venue, and a deal brokered by our friends over at Base Sports Group. Right, the Swedish furniture and home goods giants Conshohocken location will outfit a family lounge at the complex, along with activations and branded experiences. Right, so these are just examples of large brands understanding, the opportunity around youth sports, some digitally, some in person, right? To me, similar to the Curve story, it just reiterates a lot of the trends that we've talked about in mostly this week. A lot of these coming off the interview with Samir, how the next rung up in the youth sports TAM is sponsorship dollars, right? It's not, there's some increased registration, there's a little bit of increased travel, but it's sponsorship dollars gonna really leg us up. And just here you go, you have Nike entering the fold, IKEA today, and then the Huddle deal with Lee, similar to earlier. I may have glossed over it a bit more than I should have the other day, but y- typically people have to pay for a subscription to Huddle, right? So Huddle and Lee are now working together to make these highlights available at scale across, I would imagine, dozens, if not more, local community digital outlets that are already trafficked so people can watch highlights of high school games for free. Well, how can you do that for free? And the answer is, and I guess
Nike sponsorships.
sponsorships. Exactly.
Major brands.
Nike spot, it's a good point. It probably is the Nike sponsorship, right? So there you go. You're talking about a way. How do you drive more dollars? And I don't want to say this isn't participation, but you're subsidizing the cost. This is exactly, Kyle, what you talked about with Game Changer, is who's going to go ahead in the local community and pay for the Game Changer $9.99 a month live streaming fee and sponsor that. Well, and the answer is, in this case, Lee Enterprises, presumably, and Huddle are going to team up and they're going to sell ads and make it free to parents. So you say it here, it comes out there, just tapping on the trends that we talked about. So I actually I don't think it's a huge deal in and of itself, but it's another sign of Huddle acting like a media company that's eventually going to go public and distributing content and supporting it with ad dollars for subscriptions. So love it. Love it. Love it. Love, love, love. Love, love, love the sponsors.
I really love the your LinkedIn post today. The next wave of youth sports tech will be the increased focus on the consumer, parents and athletes, versus just the customer, leagues and clubs. Describe it a little bit. Talk about that post a little bit, and what you kind of are on.
Yeah, so I encourage everyone to go to LinkedIn, search for me.
Search for me. Go to LinkedIn, please. Search for me and read my post.
It's the links in all the newsletters. It was actually it was in the deep dive I did yesterday on the Samir interview, which is for premium subscribers only. So I wanted to put it out there because I drew the diagram, right? I like the diagram.
Good diagram.
Diagram helps. But the idea here is this shift, and this all ties into sponsorship, by the way. The idea here is this shift from the Tech 1.0 platforms that largely started in the late 2000s and early 2010s. That were traditional B2B SaaS companies working with leagues and clubs and things like that, facilities, providing good software for them. And then all the users, the end consumers, athletes, parents of those facilities, how to use whatever platform your local league club facility uses. Over time, those features are built first and foremost for the customer that is the league club facility. Makes sense. But what we're seeing is, you have millennial parents now. Use myself as an example. I'm 42 years old. Kids are 10 and 7, right? You have older millennial, middle-aged millennial parents coming in who have higher tech expectations, are tech native. They have higher tech adoption. And they're seeing some of these apps, and the experience for parents it varies, right? Charitably, I think it varies. It's meant to make things easy for the clubs. So you have that. And then if you think about what Samir said to us the other day, they lean into the family first. They're developing the scorekeeping and streaming features first for the family. And now their second wave is rolling out more features that allow the league or club to sort of make announcements, scheduling, operate itself, maybe outside of having to use a dedicated registration platform. I don't know if they're there today, but they're leading with family first. You're seeing some of the startups in the industry like Onsides, Orgo, Doozy, I mentioned somebody else. Rematch, right? Now, none of these today are certainly scaled tech plays. Rematch is a replay feature for live streaming. Orgo is scheduling. Onsides is a little bit of scheduling and communication. Doozy is tournament tickets where you don't have to download an app, you just get tickets as a text message, right? Again, they're all leading with, hey, how can we make the experience better for the end consumer that they like it? So I think this is the tech 2.0 trend, which is getting the scale of all of the parents because there's a larger media play out there besides just a B2B SaaS. TeamSnap rolling out TeamSnap One as a separate app, not an app update, to me is interesting. I think there's a lot of new AI architecture when we talk to Reed. I think there's a lot more under the hood than probably made it have to be a separate app. But the other side of that is the live streaming features are all for parents to live stream on their phone, and then they can upsell to subscriptions, and they talk a lot about sponsorship too. So again, you're talking about one of the traditional real registration platforms that was really built for kind of these local recreational clubs leaning into parent first features. Because when you begin to do the math, some of these companies can do three things. You could be B2B SaaS, you could be a parent first kind of media play, and you could charge subscriptions. And they're all coming at it from different angles. League Apps is very much B2B SaaS. They lean into big clubs and facilities and they start there. Someone like Game Changer is starting with the parent and the media aspect. And then both are kind of meeting in the middle of charging parent subscriptions. And the company that gets this right is doing all three of those things. They're selling B2B SaaS to the leagues. They're charging subscriptions for live streams to parents. And then on top of that, they're monetizing with sponsor dollars. And you do all the math, you're talking billions of eyeballs per year. You're talking giant media companies, all supported by
Sponsorships.
sponsorship dollars.
Nike.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go.
All
There
right.
it is.
All right.
Hopefully that wasn't too long-winded, but
No, that was good. That was
that's
good. I liked your analogies. I liked your thought process there. It seems like these tech platforms have to become media businesses in a way, and you spelled it out right. And then I'm thinking about how Game Changer is doing a great job with Dick's because they have a bunch of content creators, or they have I see now Game Changer will go out to maybe a mom or dad who has a following on Instagram or TikTok, and they'll say, hey, here's a Game Changer. Can you make a sponsored post for this and stuff? So I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't get all of it. I'll be honest with you, but I learned a lot just from your LinkedIn post.
well, I mean, and Game Changer has a unique, because they're owned by Dick's, they made a point of saying that all the features they're rolling out are free for coaches, right? The lineup recommendations, initiating the stream is free, right? They're monetizing on the parent side, both through subscriptions and it sounds like, based on the conversation, eventually sponsorship dollars. They may have the luxury of not having to charge. I don't think those team and league features are as robust as some of the registration platforms today, but they have the luxury of having the parent so they can lean more heavily into the media side and maybe not have to charge for as many of the coach and registration and sort of back end platform features. Some of the other pure play companies don't have that advantage. On the other side, you have Fast Break and Auto AI with bags of cash that are launching, kind of coming after the team snaps and league apps and sports engines of the world with AI first tech, right? Like a little bit of slicker workflows. They're well capitalized. They're coming hard at that. But then at the same time, Fast Break is doing sponsorships through Fast Break Connect, right? So they're trying to do everything all at once with a giant bag of cash. So it's just really fascinating. Everybody comes at it from a different angle. But to me, the through line here, the trend is everyone is thinking about all these parents have phones in their pockets. They're already engaging with the apps. They're going to film the events and watch the events and see the scores and see the highlights all within these apps. Reed from Team Snap talked about it on the podcast. They can brand that highlight with a State Farm logo before the goal is scored, just like you would see on TV. Everyone is describing some version of a media company. That's it right there.
Yeah, interesting. It'll be fun to watch it play out. Let's move along to our final topic. Flag football made some pretty big news in the last 24 hours. University of Toledo launches Rocket Youth Sports Leagues, a regional initiative that will connect kids with the school's athletes and coaches. Boys and girls flag football is the first plan and then it plans to also expand into other sports, offering leagues, camps, and clinics in the area. And then NFL taps Tiger Woods' Tomorrow Sports venture to operate its newly formed professional Flag Football League. So we got a lot of news in college. We got some news in the pro sports with the NFL. What's your read on this?
So it's funny, sometimes we're right, and we're happy to play those wins, right, and sometimes we're wrong, right. So I don't know, was it last week sort of downplayed, hey, flag football doesn't need to be a TV sport, and then the NFL goes out and partners with a company that makes simulated golf a watchable TV
Yes.
sport. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. It seems like I'm reading it. Best known for its indoor golf league TGL tomorrow, TMRW Sports emerged from competitive bid process to get the flag football business from the NFL. It's
Beat out a
become a
lot of
large
heavy
priority.
hitters too.
It did. It did. So it doesn't say exactly what they're going to do with it, but I assume this is for a broadcast, sort of medium here. I think.
Yeah. I still don't think you're too wrong on your prediction. With it doesn't need to be a TV sport. You know, obviously, I think James wrote in the newsletter, we don't know how hands-on the NFL is going to be with this. If I know the NFL, like I think know the NFL, I believe they are going to be pretty hands-on. They are a pretty hands-on kind of league with everything. They just got rid of report cards today. They don't want the players who are doing the report cards anymore. So they're definitely very hands-on.
Really?
Yeah, they got rid of the team report cards today. They beat the Players Association. So that kind of tells you they are very hands-on and they don't want
They still
anything.
block Barstool from media day. Like, that's how hands-on they are. I mean, I
They
know
did,
Dave Portnoy
yeah,
was able to get there, but
yeah,
they still haven't gotten over that. The whole rest of the world has accepted Barstool as mainstream except for the NFL, which I find
yes,
hilarious.
yes. So tomorrow's sports venture, the only thing we've seen is that they will be operating it in what way? How are they going to do it? Are they going to make it a lot like TGL? Um, it'll be interesting.
I mean, listen, you go to tomorrow's website and it's just a giant B-roll of TGL, obviously, but the tagline on their website is building modern approaches to sports, media, and entertainment. So yeah, I mean the NFL is leaning into flag as a media property. So again, I still remain lukewarm on the idea that these kind of secondary spin-off versions of a sport, TGL spin-off version of golf, obviously, flag spin-off version of football, at least in terms of they could be great participation sports. I think most of them wind up petering out as things that are on TV. I don't know. Are we watching the TGL in 10 years? Maybe. Maybe like I could be dead wrong. Maybe. I actually sort of enjoy watching it. So
This- uh,
I'm talking
I
out both sides of my mouth.
I haven't watched it. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a huge golf fan. I'll watch the majors, but I really haven't. I haven't been able to get into TGL. If I want to watch simulated golf, I'd rather watch my buddy play Marion than in his basement than watch it. I don't know when you have the best guys at their sports. The best parts about golf is that guy just stuck a golf ball within 2 feet on 17. It's not hitting into a a simulator or hitting into a projector screen.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And listen, it might be good enough, especially with the golf thing. I mean, you have one facility, so you invest in that, and then you basically just build a broadcast studio. That's what's happening here, right? I think it's happening with Unrivaled Basketball, right? They just kind of took their first tour, right? So like you could build a content. They're basically building content studios.
That's what I
That's it.
wanted to ask you about. Like, do these new sport plays, like everybody's kind of dunking on Unrivaled right now because they're struggling with their second season, and that's normal. I mean, we saw the XFL have really good ratings in the first season, and the second season, it's hard to keep people on. Unrivaled's going through that right now. USFL went through that. TGL might be going through that and stuff. How much of these are? Yeah, you do want ratings and you want people to tune into the full broadcast, but having highlights out there that just go viral and just rack up millions and millions and billions of views that you can sell to sponsorships, like, is that kind of the play going forward, that as long as we can still get into the black and we're still putting on a significant or at least a good product, that like we will take, people sharing and reposting and viewing our highlights. What's the play going forward?
I think that is the play, right? The more I'm watching this B-roll of TGL playing in the background as you're talking, I'm like, yeah, this is just a giant content studio.
It's a good
This is
sizzle
like
reel.
Mr. Beast getting a warehouse and building a crazy set. It's exactly what it is. Now, I personally struggle to like take Rory McIlroy serious that he cares about this, right? They're showing Derek Jeter in the stands. It's a content play. Again, we're I'm in my 40s, you're in your 30s. This may speak to people in their teens and 20s more than us. There's also an aspect of people have golf simulators in their home or they play golf simulators. It's the same thing with padel. I just took out, we're talking about padel a little bit. It's trying to become a TV sport in the US. The viewership, you may be able to have control the fixed costs enough to get enough viewers of people who play that sport who are wowed by the athleticism of somebody playing a simulator, much different than you play a simulator, or somebody playing flag football, much different, or somebody playing padel, much different than you do. And rather than this like world tour that golf and tennis do, or 30 cities and 30 franchises the way pro sports do, it's just a single facility and you bring people in a few weeks a year to put on the content. Like you control the fixed costs and you get enough sponsorship dollars on the backs of cutting that into episodes and clips. Like I could see it. The economics make sense as long as you keep people interested. That's the difference.
And just saw that broke today from Joe Pompliano. UPA, the holding company for pickleball's two biggest leagues, plans to raise 150 to 200 million in new capital. So, like, if you would have told me that pickleball was still raising 150 to 200 million dollars on their way to try to become a $1 billion business, I think they just had one of their biggest events just get 775,000 viewers and whatnot. I mean, I honestly would have told you that pickleball kind of was on the bell curve down right now, but apparently it's the plan is to build a vertically integrated platform, media, software, real estate, serving the entire pickleball industry. We
Yeah,
just talked
again,
about that in the beginning.
right. And the bottom of that might be better. Might be the infrastructure and local facilities, and like there could be a buying sandlot for adult recreation. By the way, right? I think the same tailwinds we talked about in youth sports are largely present for adults who want to stay healthy. Those things don't all have to be viewing rights. But again, the pickleball numbers were actually pretty good, right? Those were actually, I actually was going to write the other day that they were on the way down the bell curve because that was my view. And then I looked up the ratings and I was like, shoot, they just hit like record ratings. We're just going to leave that out. So we could be wrong on this one. Again, tying it back to youth and flag, obviously, the more the NFL invests in flag, it's only going to help participation, if nothing else. So.
Yeah, I was interested in their. They only invested 32 million, so that's like a dip a toe in the water. That's a dip. That's $1 million from every
Yeah, it's
owner.
a
That's ashtray
cornerback.
money.
It's a cornerback for a couple of years, right?
It's a league minimum. Third. I don't even think a third stringer makes that much. But
that might be the league minimum in the NBA, by the way.
yes. So it's like, well, it'll be interesting. I think the NFL is they're definitely, if you look at the number that they all invested, they're dipping their toe into this. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I still have my franchise that is growing 2x every single year. It feels like 1x, 1.5x every single year. And I got, you got that and stuff. And you still got you got the biggest media property in the entire United States. Anything that does work is just at this point, it's just good.
Yeah, it's a call option on the future. If it works, great. You got your hand in it. It's a 5% Kalshi market, right? You throw $1,000 in and hits, and you're happy, right? So yeah, I still think the smart money is in youth. I'm not just like talking our book here. I think, I don't think pro teams are growing as fast as maybe you're giving them credit for. They'll continue to grow, but you're not going to 8x your money. I mean, take Josh Harris, bought the Sixers for $300 million ish in 2011. They're worth, I don't know, like $5 billion now, something thereabouts. Like that, yeah. It seems like the mid rate for an NBA team. So you're talking more than 10xing that investment. Unrivaled Sports, when Dick's invested in them 6 months ago, after existing for like a year and a half, was valued at $650 million. So his youth sports business today, it was valued, Josh and David Blitzer, was valued at 2x of what the Sixers were valued at in 2011. The odds of now 4xing, if you were to buy an NBA team, the odds of 4xing that investment from $5 billion to $20 billion, call it, right? Versus buying or investing in a $500 million youth sports business, just for easy math, right? And 4xing that to a $2 billion company feels way more likely, right? And if you get these, there are $500 million opportunities in youth sports today that, for the reasons we talked about around consumer and sponsorship and becoming large platforms where you have media component, subscriptions, maybe facilities and clubs. There will be 11-figure companies. That's 10 billion plus in youth sports. Varsity Brands is a few billion. HUDL is probably a few billion today. Game Changer would, I don't know, between 1 and 2 billion maybe if it was standalone. But like you're talking about, there's a $500 million company today that becomes a $10 billion company in 7 to 10 years, maybe sooner. So now you're talking about 20xing in investment in youth sports. I don't think you're 20xing much in pro sports. So everyone is reaching for these secondary sports. Think the media and old school pro people think more about, hey, what could we turn into this like nationally viewable thing on TV? And I think the smart money, like Sandy here, to bring it full circle, is like, I'm going to buy 100 baseball clubs.
Yeah. And build 30 super sites.
Yes. I'm going to own a bunch of facilities and clubs and schools. We're going to do schools too. Right? That's it. It's all about like how the multiple, it's much barrier to entry in youth is much lower.
Mhm. No, it's an exciting time. It's an industry that keeps moving and shaking every single day. And we'll be here for you. All right.
All right.
Hey, listen, everybody, have a great weekend. If you stayed this long, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Event Connect, as always, for powering the show. Go to eventconnectsports.com, the operating system of youth sports. We'll talk to you on Monday with another round of exciting news. Talk to you then.